Welcome to Biblical Genetics. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Carter. Call me Dr. C if you like. I'm here at Red Rocks, just west of Denver. It's a fantastic amphitheater, really cool geology. I just like being outside and I like seeing interesting things, and I wanted my show to reflect some of my interests like that. In the last episode, I threw in some historical anecdotes that were kind of fun to think about. I'm gonna do a couple more, just anecdotes, this whole show, just anecdotes, because they're fun. And they also teach us what we can know about genetics and what we can use genetics for as far as testing theories of history go. The first anecdote, Thomas Jefferson, one of my favorite presidents, but he wasn't a very moral man. While he was alive, it is rumored that he had fathered several children by his slave girl, Sally Hemmings. In fact, to make matters even worse, it was rumored that he was living with her like a concubine. The descendants of Sally Hemmings rightly wanted to know if they were the descendants of Thomas Jefferson. Now here's where it gets interesting. Because if that was just a generic Y chromosome that like millions of people had, like my Y chromosome I share with like 80% of European males, is totally non-descriptive, then nothing would have happened. But the more rare Thomas Jefferson's Y chromosome was, if Sally Hemmings' children also carried it, the more likely it is that Thomas Jefferson was the ancestor. And it turns out that TJ had a super rare Y chromosome that's basically only found in the Middle East. It's a very, very strange thing for him to be carrying. And so does Sally Hemmings' descendants. Now, statistically, it's highly likely that he was the father, but you can't historically prove it because there were other Jefferson males, and they could have been the fathers, but the thing is, Thomas was in the right place at the right time, and it's almost certain that he is the father of these children. Now that brings up an interesting thing, because what I just said was that genetics is never perfect. There are statistics and likelihoods and arguments about weighting and things like that. That's W-E-I-G-H-T, weighting. It's not always something we can say absolutely 100%. And this is going to come up again and again and again as we dig into biblical genetics. All right, another example I want to bring up is a man named Genghis Khan, a Mongolian warlord. He led vast armies across Asia all the way into Europe. He left an amazing legacy behind him, but mainly a genetic legacy. You see, by raping and pillaging his way across the world, he is today the ancestor of about 1 out of every 200 people alive. Whoa, that's amazing. We are going to spend time in some future episode talking about the ethics of evolution, the ethics of natural selection, and the fact that it doesn't matter what you do, as long as you leave descendants in the next generation, you win. And that's essentially what Genghis Khan did on a grand scale. We had a dramatic pause for a helicopter, and apparently they're testing out the base system at the stadium back there. Man, that was loud and rumbly. Okay, another anecdote that I want to mention is a study on the Y chromosomes of England. They were doing a survey of all the different Y chromosomes. And they came across one particular one that belonged in Africa. And they said, that doesn't make any sense. So they asked all the English men with that last name if they'd participate in a study. And a lot of them said, yeah. So they traced their families back, 2 main branches of the family, to a guy living in England in the 1700s who was not African. And that's a bit of a mystery, because there are a lot of examples of European men fathering children with non-European women. But there are very few examples of European women fathering children with non-European men during the colonial era. Today it's not true anymore, but back then it was rare. So who is this African Y chromosome? Where did it come from? Well, people have speculated maybe it came from the Roman era. Because when the Romans conquered England, at one point they had an African legion manning the border of Hadrian's Wall, the border of Scotland, way up north. And at that point in Roman history, Roman soldiers could have wives. Not that that ever stopped them from fathering children within the local populace, but they could actually be married and have wives while on station. There's another group of people I want to talk about. They are a subset of Jewish people. People with the last name of Khan and Cohen. These are the Kohathites, the Cohanim, the people that for a long time Jewish people said these are the descendants of the sons of Aaron, and they're the priests, the priestly class. That's funny because that would make them the only Jewish group that's maintained any sense of ancestry throughout all these years. And the thing is, their tribes, their families have been split for more than 2,000 years, 2,500-ish years. So we have Cohanim that lived in Babylon. We have some in the Sephardic Jews, some amongst the Ashkenazi Jews, the Jews of North Africa. How can this family have remain cohesive? How can anyone retain any sense of ancestry after that much time? Because think about it. People do lie. There are some times where children are born to someone who's not the father of the family. And there's just, and there's adoptions. So after this much time, who would ever think? Well, they wanted to know. So someone did a study of the Cohanim. And it turns out that something like 70% of them are from the same Y chromosome group. Wow, very strong indication that there actually are one family. But this Cohen Y chromosome is also found in non-Jewish people. Well, that shouldn't be surprising, considering the number of examples we have of Jewish men marrying non-Jewish women. They're not even always marrying even. And we have all these examples of Jewish people spreading around the world, so that's not a surprise. But what is a surprise is the last group of people I want to talk about. There's a group of Africans living in southernmost Africa, thousands of miles south of the equator, and the equator is thousands of miles south of Israel. About as far as Israel as you can get and still be in Africa. Their cultural story is that a ship carrying Jewish sailors got shipwrecked in southernmost Africa a very long time ago. They couldn't get home, so they married some of the local girls. Well, lo and behold, they look at their mitochondrial DNA. That's a piece of DNA you only get from the female side, and they're Bantu. Okay, that part of the story, they're African. But when they looked at their Y chromosomes, turns out that a good chunk of the Lemba men carry Y chromosomes that are otherwise found in the Middle East. And even more crazy, some of them, specifically the men who had more like the priestly roles in the tribe, some of those Y chromosomes are associated with men who have the last name of Cohen and Khan. As if not only did a group of Jewish men get marooned in southernmost Africa, but a descendant of Aaron, the first high priest of Israel, was amongst them. Wow. Oh, there's so much fun things. There's so many more fun things. I'm going to leave you with just those few examples. We'll be bringing up more over time, but I just want to show you that we can really unpack stories of history, and we can really test theories of history using genetics. And that's why this is so fun, and that's what we're going to get back to in many other episodes as we look at the Bible and look at what it says, and look at science and look what it says, and see if there's any way we can reconcile these things. Well, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. There'll be a lot more anecdotes like that, of fun tidbits of history as we proceed, because we are going to be doing a lot of exploring of biblical topics, genetic topics, and we're going to be looking at a lot of different things as we go through this fascinating field of biblical genetics. I hope you enjoyed this. Stay tuned for more. If you'd like to support us, click the link, go to biblicalgenetics.com if you're listening online. We're here for you. I'd love to hear your comments. In fact, we're working up an episode where we just answer questions. We're going to be doing those periodically. Those are going to be a lot of fun because I really want to hear from you. I really want to know what you're thinking, and that'll help me craft what I'm saying to help you as best I can. Feel free to share this. I want this message to go around the world. I would love to get an international audience. But until then, have a great time. Till I see you again. Love y'all. You're the best. I love you fans. You're fantastic. This is Dr. C signing off.